Welcome to the Society Pod, a podcast for entrepreneurs, marketers, and leaders. Here's your host, Jessica Yarmy.
Hey there, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Society Pod. This is going to be a good one. We're already laughing and having a blast over here. My guest today is a very unserious icon in the fitness industry. She has spent her entire career in mega brands like Solid Core, Pure Barre, and Kick House. She's a mastermind of all of the marketing things and is my partner in crime in bringing all of the things to life with Flex Society, SizzleSociety, this podcast, and more. Welcome to the show, Samantha Salas.
Hello. I'm nervous and excited to be here.
I am nervous. I feel like I don't say your full name out loud. And as I was writing my show notes, I was like, wait, I'm going to have to introduce her by her full name. How do you introduce yourself normally?
Well, first of all, whenever people call me Samantha, I feel like I am in trouble. I did something wrong, principal office or something. So I go by Sam. I like to kid around. It's like Sam I am. But I am a marketer and I'm a digital innovation strategist.
Like the digital innovation strategist.
It's unique. It's something that's come about throughout my career.
And a Twitter whiz? Is that a thing?
Twitter whiz to be. I will definitely joke around and say I do have more followers than you do on your Twitter.
You do.
But in return, you have more LinkedIn. You have a LinkedIn game going on.
That's true. And I shouldn't even say Twitter. It's X. So like you're an X extraordinaire is maybe the alliteration we can go with your Twitter presence.
It's growing. I think I found my way in.
This is episode 25 of the podcast. I save certain slots, for certain people. Episode 55 is going to be Gary. Episode 25 is for you. I think the first podcast launched in February. I could only imagine the fear in the back of your mind. When is she going to tag me in as a guest? I chose episode 25 because I wanted it to be stable and tested. I wanted to have a foundational process that was strong enough to understand that it's going to be around for a while and a stable part of our ecosystem, and then tag you into it and bring all of your expertise and light to the environment.
Well, I think it's more than just episode 25. It's also your birthday. It's a big milestone. I know you don't like to celebrate the birthday, but it was just meant to happen on this day.
Okay, I see. I get to put you on the hot seat and then you turn the tables and just zinger to the hot seat of my age. Yes, I am 45. At 45, I still feel like I am learning and growing and evolving. And I feel like there's a next level still for me. And so you, for me, in all the things that we do, are the hype squad of yes, I see you where you currently are. Yes, I see where you want to go. And yes, we can absolutely do it and make it come to life. And so that is the meaning to me of episode 25.
I think we're definitely going to get to this a little bit later, but even when I see you, I know that there's more, right? We always know that there's more. There's another level. We talk about leveling up all the time, and that's actually become one of my values of there's more. What is there? And with more, it's you do have to take that time to look back, and I look back at us and I'm like, holy shit, where we've come from,
So before we dive in too much to us, I want to talk about you. Did you set out to create your career in the fitness industry, or did that just come to be magically?
My career really came to be a little bit magically. I was definitely your child growing up that I was not a sporty kid. I was band, I was art club, I was president of the French Honor Society. And I actually found my way first into fitness via rock climbing. And then I ended up getting hurt pretty early on, and that really limited any sort of other fitness things that I could do, right? And I had finally gotten my foot into it. I was like, oh, I could be sporty. I went to school for business marketing, but then after I got hurt, I found Pure Barre. I was there from day one that they opened the doors here in Texas in Arlington. And by the end of the first week, I was the bartender. By the end of the month, I was the manager. And it just started to snowball into oh, I love fitness and I love marketing. And I was doing all these things. And eventually Solid Core found me. And then you found me with Kick House. And it just started to snowball into my love for fitness and my love for marketing.
Do you feel like you're in your special niche right now, or do you still feel like there's something else out there that you need to explore?
There's definitely so much more. As you know, we are people that doing just one thing feel very confined. I feel like my potential is very boxed up, and we are people who love to think outside the box, and I don't like being put into this tiny little box. So I can say that I love marketing, but there's so many things that I can put my skills into when it comes to marketing and boutique fitness and wellness, and expanding that into Web3, and expanding them into gaming, and expanding it into so many other realms where it's the same thing. It's marketing, which I love, but there's so many industries that it can correlate to that I'm actually involved in. I love to say that I love what I get to do.
As I look back at my career, it took me until I was 31 to navigate back into the fitness industry. I didn't overlap marketing with fitness, with franchising until I was 31. I feel like you are in such a good spot where you're building from a place of passions, then you can pivot and explore Web3, and then you can grow and collect NFTs. It's so amazing to see young people, because we're centering all of this around my old birthday. It's amazing to see young people get to places faster than my trajectory. I think that's part of why I push you, because I'm like, okay, you're there. And so now what? Now what? And then, I think there's just going to be so many more levels to what you're doing. What skill set or trait do you think you possess that has helped you get to where you are at such a young age?
The skill that I think that I have, I think it's a little bit more than one. It's definitely my nerdy self, my constant need for knowledge. I remember when we were at Kick House and we were coming up with this grandiose marketing idea that we kind of talked about, like, hey, what if we did this, right? And then that snowballed into something bigger and greater. Also came to be because I was like, hey, let me raise my hand because I know a little bit about Web3. I know a little bit about NFTs because I've been in the background just on my own learning about things. And I always approach things in a way of like, I know that I don't know everything, but I'm a person that I know how to use Google. I will find out what I need to find out, and I will reach out to the people I know and that will lead me to the answer that I need or towards the direction that I need to go to. Most importantly, it's the hunger to grow. The hunger to grow not only within work or industry, but also the hunger to grow within myself as a leader, as a person, as a human, as my soul. Those two things really, I think, have helped me propel forward into my career.
I forget where the NFT program started, but I remember that conversation. Hey, what about this? In your Sam fashion, just kind of like timidly was like, I know a bit about that. And as soon as I realized like how much you knew about it, I was like, okay, yeah, we're definitely going to do it then, because I am someone who can Google, but it takes me being in it to learn it. And it's hard to build programs and learn as you go like that. And so you almost do need somebody who has outside expertise to be able to like bring it into the mix. I think it was like a fun example of like how we work, where I think we were just talking about it one day, or maybe it started with Gary V, and Gary was into NFTs. And I was like, what if we did this? And then you were like, yeah, let's do it. And then it just went, right? And it wasn't slow or like, let's overthink this or let's get an outside agency to help us with it. It was like, no, we're going to just, I say, we're going to just figure it out. But like Sam is going to just figure it out. And we did. That's like how the first NFT collection project for Kick House came to be.
And I think also more than that, it's just another little trait of mine between like our relationship is that I just bring the grounded energy, where we always joke around, but you bring the fire, you bring the chaos, and I'm just the one in the background. I'm like, we got this, team. We're going to execute. We're going to get it done.
Well, but I think some of it is I have a lot of ideas about a lot of things, and I'll throw a lot of them out to you guys. And then I'm waiting to see how you react to different things. I get a lot of green light in my mind kind of ideas, and then I'll say them to you and you're like, I don't get it. That signals to me in my mind, like, okay, I need to go back and rethink this, or at least represent it so that it can make sense. But if it's the opposite and it's like green light to me and it's green light to you guys, then I think it just moves very fast because no one at that point is saying, no, this doesn't make sense. Once we have those two yeses, then what could we not build, right?
Exactly. Between both of us, we both have the crazy ideas. We both bring an equal amount of chaos, but we also bring that grounded energy towards each other that works for our relationship.
Agreed. Okay. Back to you. What is your superpower?
I think my main superpower is that I'm a teen mom. That I feel everybody comes to me for whether it's something that's going on at work or in their personal lives. I bring the snacks. I will have Band-Aids. I will have whatever you need in my like little backpack of things. I'm teen mom. I'm there for it.
Teen mom is a good superpower to have because it encapsulates the like empathetic leadership, but also what if shit's going badly? And then I go to Teen Mom and Teen Mom helps me through it. And so it's like an actionable superpower too. So you're not like a passive Teen Mom, just cheerleader, but you're like, no, let's dig in and kind of figure it out. I like that superpower for you. I know being Teen Mom, you've had either direct leadership experience with people on the team or indirect leadership roles with people on the team that might not be your direct reports, but they do look up to you as a leader. How do you describe your leadership style, or how do you think about yourself and leadership?
The way I lead is with an empathetic leadership style. I lead with empathy and I lead with grace. I have had my experiences of leaders who one would say were not the greatest of leaders, but in return, it is my role to give them grace, right? They must have had a leader in their past that showed up in that way. And then in return, they are now showing up in that way to the rest of their team. And it is then your role to also kind of coach a little bit to that and protect the people down below from that and be that cheerleader for them when they're only hearing negatives from leadership above. But the way I also lead is that I lead with empathy and grace because you never know what's going on with your team sometimes. If you know what they're capable of and they execute at like level 100, and then all of a sudden one day they're now executing at like maybe 80%, 70%, a little bit below, something is going on. And whether they're willing to let me know what's going on or not, I have to give them that grace and I have to know how to coach and how to get them back to that point of where I know they can be. There have been other situations where I have been guided and I was like, okay, wait, like this is a learning opportunity, not only for myself, for my team, but also for the leader themselves. We always sometimes talk about how can you work up the chain and kind of coach upwards. And that opportunity right there presents itself to that person that's kind of like the middle person, right? And I always feel like sometimes I am that. I love to be the behind the scenes person. I love to be that middle person because you have so much control of both ends, right?
I love that idea of being a middle person. And I do sometimes refer to you as a translator because I think you and I connect and I have an intensity about what I do, but you know what I'm trying to get to, and you are able to translate it into what needs to be done right now, knowing that that's the end point that we're trying to get to. What are you currently working on in terms of your leadership style?
What I'm working on with my leadership style is that I have done also so much work on myself. I go in and I remember that at the end of the day, we are all humans. Right? We are all people behind a screen, whether you have a remote team or whether you have a team that meets up in real life, you are all human. There's a level that your team can get to when you realize how much you guys are actually connected, not only in your roles on a day-to-day, like sales and marketing work well together, but also in like how you are connected to that other human on the other side of the screen, right? Where it's like, whether you love the same things or you don't love to do the same things. We always talk about you and I and how we're so polar opposite and different about certain things, but we connect and we mesh so well. So for me, it's like, how can I connect or level up my connection with the other human on the screen?
You and I started to work together at Kickhouse, and Kickhouse was fully remote. And now we're working on SizzleSociety fully remote. Where do you land on team building in person versus team building remote?
Both are so doable. We built Kickhouse entirely during the pandemic where we couldn't meet in person. We built it all remote and all virtually, and we had the greatest team connection. And that was because we were checking in all the time. We were on calls all the time. And I'm not saying that we were on calls 24/7 or like 8 hours a day, but we knew how to touch base and how to get work done, but also have fun a little bit, right? And then we would have eventually our team outings. I really do believe for businesses that are out there that are fully remote, you can have an amazing culture, an amazing connection with your teams and getting together online. And then it's just amplified by meeting in person. When I take a look at like Web3 or anything in tech, where you're now dealing with people across the country or people in a whole nother country in different time zones, you still get to connect. It's like the power of gaming, right? Or the power of Discord, the power of Telegram, where it doesn't matter what time zone you're in, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you're able to still connect with somebody over mutual things that you love to do, mutual activities, anything like that. And you're always going to find some people that will want to show up, whether it's to a happy hour, a movie, whether it's to like just something that you put together, because at the end of the day, it doesn't necessarily matter what you're doing, it's who you're doing it with.
Yeah, I totally agree. As I look back on Kickhouse as a leader in that remote structure, we did a lot of things incorrectly, but one of the things that I think we did correctly was we did have a lot of touch bases. And then also I removed myself from a lot of touch bases. I feel a little like a tornado presence of like, I'm going to come in, communicate everything that needs to be communicated, kind of make the mandates of where we're going, set the vision, but then also then step back and be like, okay, then you all have your moment to dust settles. What does this mean? Who's going to pick up what pieces? I think it was a correct balance where we didn't over communicate it, but we did also over communicate, if that makes any sense at all.
It does. And we also had a very open line of that communication where they knew they could reach us via Slack, they could reach us via email, via phone, anytime they had a question. And that's also a very important part of leadership is how open are you as their leader to make yourself available for questions, right? And how approachable are you to make yourself available for those questions, especially when you're working with people that at the time were greener in the area that they were in. So that's a huge piece too.
If you think about a remote work team, having all of the different lines of communication and then appropriately communicating via which channel. And so obviously, we all kind of are email gangsters, but then we would have certain communications face to face. We'd have certain communications in chat. We'd have certain communications via text. Honestly, a lot of phone calls, like walk and talk. And then we would also communicate via social media, having like this range of ways that we talk and communicate. And even though you and I are both in Dallas, we still don't really get together face to face that often. It's like, no, all of our communication it's digital, and it just ranges from, are we fully in work mode, client facing on a Zoom call, or are we chit-chatting via TikTok about raccoon trend? It's a full spectrum of things.
The little bit of semi-chaos that we worked in might not work for everybody, but for us, it was all about finding the right people. And you talk about this all the time, right? It's like about finding your people. I truly believe we are so good at knowing the qualities and knowing who's going to mesh well with our team and be able to work on those spectrums, right? Where are you able to be an email gangster, get stuff done? Are you able to then turn around and have a little mind break during the day and like send more like TikTok raccoons?
A lot of teams are in this like debate right now, like how often are we face to face versus how often are we remote, or flexible work schedules and stuff. I do think we did a good job being fully remote, and I do believe you can build teams fully remote. It's a global need right now. And so I think it hasn't been a skill before, but I think the ability to say, I have built and managed fully remote teams is now a skill that probably is going to start to pop up on people's resumes and things. What are you working on right now in general? And do you have any specific goals or specific asks that you want to throw out to the universe? The Society Pod community is growing like crazy, and you never know who might be listening who can help you with your goal or your dream.
So right now, something that I'm working on personally is developing a little bit more of a self brand. So as a marketer, it's so easy for me to put together brand values and a brand for other people, other companies. And then there's this block that happens as soon as I start to work on it within myself. This has been a project for months now, and I just still can't seem to like get it over the finish line. So that's something that I'm one, working on, but two, I would also be like raising my hand and asking for help on this. I know we attended VCon and we met with Jeff Saras and his wife. They were so helpful, but it's also just those last few steps where I'm like, okay, like what now? Am I ready? So how do I wrap this up with a little bow?
I'm obviously in your ear in a big way in this regard. And I think it's good to put this out into the universe because how many years gap is it between, we're like 14 years apart. I'm in a different place than you. And then I still like push you to kind of do things in the way that I've learned that they work. But I feel so passionately about sharing the things that I've learned. But then I also am fully self-aware of the fact I learned them the way that I learned them years ago. It doesn't even work the same anymore. I started my LinkedIn gangster game when I became CMO of Club Pilates because I just felt like I don't know how to be a CMO. So let me look and watch what other CMOs are doing. Oh, other CMOs are posting on LinkedIn. So I need to post on LinkedIn. That's truly how I like started to really get into LinkedIn. And all I held myself to was like, I'm going to post once a week. And that's all I did. And now if I posted once a week, it wouldn't do anything. It's a different game now. And so whatever personal branding like lessons that I try to pass along, it's not even truly relevant. You always know you have full permission to ignore everything that I tell you, but it is probably a good opportunity for somebody else in the world who's not me to weigh in and be like, here, Sam, here's 3 things that I see that you could share pretty consistently. And it wouldn't be a big lift. It would be seamless for you, knowing that you still have full-time things. And then here's how you could also start to like dabble in your personal brand.
Well, first of all, I would never not listen to anything that you told me. Let me just put that out there right now. There's so many nuggets that you always throw out, not only on your podcast, but like just in general, like working with you on a day-to-day where I like get to look back and I was like, if only I could really truly implement every single little thing that you told me. Because I'm still like back here trying to like work on like the first, I don't know, like the first 500 nuggets you drop down, right? It's so great to like work and get the information that you drop down to like me and the team and try to like implement that. This is just one of the pieces where I'm like, I'm not sure how to get over the hurdle of getting my personal brand out there. It also does come from being so used to being behind the scenes and being so used to being just like an executor for so many other things where it's like, okay, when it comes down to me, it's like, oh, there's a little bit of nervousness of being out there more. Even doing this podcast with you, I know deep down I'm ready to make that step. The getting there is the hard part.
Yeah. I think I'm there with speaking more. And that's part of doing the podcast, right? Is just to talk more so I get the things in my mind more clean and words around the things more cleanly. If I were to say, like, where am I going to be with this in 2 years? It would be like, sure, there's still going to be a podcast, but I'm going to have more speaking opportunities to impact more people. But I'm exactly where you are, where it's like, okay, I know that that's what I want to do, but I don't exactly know. And I'm still scared to push on that.
And again, that's where we work so well together. It's because whenever I say like, I'm having a hard time, I can't do something, you're over here in my ear being like, yes, you can, just do it. And then when you're over here like, I don't know about this, I'm like, just do it. Just go for it. Like, let's go. And I think back to like VCon that we attended. A lot of things that happened at VCon were because I was like, Jess, we're going. And even last year it was like, Jess, we're going to go to VCon. And you're like, I don't know. And then we get there and magic elevators, manifestation, just all this magic just being thrown at us left and right. And so many things off of bucket list got check marked off.
Yeah. VCon's a great example because this time last year, so VCon 2023, was just at the tail end of me exiting from the Mayweather boxing family entirely. And I technically didn't have a job. I'm unemployed. And the moment that you start to think about, let's go to this fun conference and be unemployed and spending money on flights and hotels and tickets and all of those things is just not the smart thing to do. And so my like logic brain kicks in and I'm like, logically, this is a no. You are like hype, like, yes. You really were my like spirit guide through VCon 2023. And VCon 2024, I felt a little bit of the same pressure of trying to get the agency off the ground, and time away from work is money. I was just like, this isn't the smart thing to do. But again, you were like, hype, like, yes, let's go. I do think it was so great to go and to be in rooms with people who are not trying to do the exact same thing that we're trying to do, but trying to do something bigger than they're currently doing. You know, they're trying to build something, trying to like build community, trying to build projects, trying to build companies. Like everyone was a builder in some form or fashion. I do think magical things happen when you increase your surface area of luck. You know, it's not necessarily being a lucky person, because I don't feel like I am a lucky person. You probably have a little bit of luck to your person, but of course, day one of VCon, we would run into Jeff Fenster in the elevator. I love Jeff Fenster, and we saw him at Aspire. And I think that's the other part of it too, is like there's a layers to all of the things that are lucky for us. So we saw him speak at Aspire, and he spoke on franchise systems and vertical integrations of franchise systems. And so we knew him, and we were messaging him at that point and putting him on our Instagram stories at that point. And so when we met him face to face, I was just immediately like, oh yeah, you're Jeff. And like traded information. And then literally the next week he was on the podcast, and I was just amazed that he was so open to helping me in that regard. But yeah, VCon just has the magic, and you have the magic as well in terms of like, I think the vibes. We were talking about changing your title to Chief Vibe Officer?
Yeah, Chief Vibe Officer was one of the options. I do bring the vibes, and I think that's also from like being so close to not only the teams, but to like people and being able to connect. When I think about VCon and us bringing the vibes, I very much think that I am the very, 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 very lucky black cat per Gary Vee's like NFTs, not only because black is my favorite color and I dress in black all the time and I bring the dark energy, but with that dark energy comes like the high vibes, right? We together made VCon what it was with all the magic, and even within the magic of the elevator. And I know we keep talking about like, oh, we met Jeff Fenster, but it's like, no, there was so much more to that story. It was like, we met him in an elevator. We met so many other people in the elevator. It's like every time the elevator doors were opening, closing, somebody new would jump into our elevator that we would get on a podcast, that we would chat with, there would be opportunities with. And back to just magic and vibes and elevators, there's a whole other message to that of like, you always talk about Jeff, why would he want to be on the podcast? He's over here like helping you out and working together. One major lesson that I've also learned, one, hold the elevator door open, but also that saying of like, send the elevator back down for the next person. And you've been such a person to always be willing to help people, always be on a phone call with anybody that raises their hand and needing something, you're there and you're present. I call you all the time and you're there and you're like picking up the phones like, what's up? How can I help you? Like, what do you need help with? How can I guide you? How can I listen even? So magic, vibes, and holding elevators open.
And staying open. And I remember being in our elevator moments and just saying like, we're open to what is possible. And we've learned that lesson in business of stay open to the thing that you don't see coming, and then bam, it walks through the door. And I feel like that's how SizzleSociety came to life. Like people have asked me like how the marketing agency got started, and it truly just started on its own. It was just for you and I to run and catch up to it. Like it was already there and gone before we could even file LLCs and put official bank statements behind it. Like all of it was so fast and flowing. I think one of our dynamics is I am like a pusher and try to like force things to come to life, and you definitely have more of the vibes and like, let's go with the flow. And so then when SizzleSociety started to flow, I think you and I were both just like, okay, this is flowing, and so let's pivot and like go run and try to catch up to this.
I would say I go with the flow. I am always open and receptive to what the universe wants to bring to my doorstep and into my life.
With some of our clients and with like how we talk to potential clients. One of the things that we do really frequently is new store opening plans for franchise brands. We have a template NSO plan, new store opening plan. And I was talking to a potential client the other day, and he said he talked with an agency who would build him an NSO plan. And I said, like, I'll send you my NSO plan right now. Like, I'll email you a template. You could take it, like, take it and use it. Because to me, an NSO plan is an Excel spreadsheet. And the real magic is, how do you bring that Excel spreadsheet to life? And I think one thing that we do well together is like understanding who's going to pick up what pieces of that spreadsheet. And it's almost like super powered eyesight, where you're like looking at an Excel spreadsheet, but then you're seeing it in Canva come to life, or you're seeing it with media partners come to life, or printing partners come to life. And it starts to kind of become this 3D diagram of all the things that need to get done. I see that as one of the magical ways that we work together and that we bring to our clients. But what do you see as one of the reasons why, or like how we work together well?
We just work so well together. And I talk about our dynamic between you and I, but also like the team that we have, right? Where you talk about this Excel spreadsheet, and you are the Excel spreadsheet, because you know I will not touch an Excel spreadsheet. Put me into a slide deck and I immediately panic. I close that one tab out of my many tabs. You are the Excel spreadsheet. I'm kind of the person behind here that will like, okay, I'll take it. If I have to open it, I will open it, and I will manage all the things in here. But it's really like the team that executes it, right? So it's our two different dynamics of finding those business partners, finding those teammates that complement you. And you always talk about also like having those people that come in, and it's like recognizing like, what do I as a leader, what's my opportunity? What do I not currently have in my toolbox that I can then bring somebody on board that has that skill set, that can fill in that piece in that toolbox that's missing? So it's a team effort.
The recommendation for entrepreneurs or for founders as you're building your business is to have a co-founder that has an opposite skill set of yours. And the traditional way to look at it is, if you're an operations minded kind of founder, like bring in a founder who's creative minded. If you're a financial founder, bring in someone who's a marketing founder, and like kind of putting together skill sets in that way. The way that I describe our contrast to people, because we both have marketing backgrounds, the way that we've structured it is counterintuitive to like a traditional startup staff kind of structure. But I describe it to people as like, I am intense vision and chaos, and Sam is empathetic, operational, executional. Where you're hiring in your blind spot, we have complementary skills in that regard, but not in like traditional ways, because we both have a marketing background.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree. And I would even say even a little bit more of, even with the way that we work with other, whether it's agencies or other vendors or stuff, it's like, even though I'm the one working with most of them on a day-to-day basis, I also know that like you can come in and you're kind of like nail on the hammer, shut stuff down, like making those movements happen a lot quicker. Yeah. You're that person. And I'm just like that like middle person that's like, I just manage it all. You know, I keep it all calm. I keep it all grounded. I keep it all flowing and going.
The empathetic relationship queen. How do you think about that as you're hiring people or as you're interviewing people?
That's such a good question. I think even just as I hire, as I look for people, even in like the past where I have been interviewed, and like there's that question to just ask a question. And my big thing is like, one, yes, how do I see myself working with these people or this person? But I want to know more. And the way that I get to know more is like, what is your life goal? That's like the number one question that I ask. It's like, what is your life goal, and how is X person or X company helping you get there? Because that not only tells me more about the person in general outside of work, it tells me it's like, how do their outside skills, how does their passion outside work, how will that help fuel them when it does come to work? And how do I get to know that person a little bit better? Because if a person doesn't really have like a huge life goal, and you talk about legacy and have something more outside, it's a little bit hard for me to like connect with that person or see how they can have such a bigger view, bigger ideas, bigger motivation when it comes to their day-to-day jobs. For me, I always like to think about everything that you get to do on your day-to-day is working with intention. Whether it's you get to build in Canva, you are not just building an image in Canva for a marketing campaign. You're doing so much more. And if you can see that bigger picture of what you're doing versus like, darn, I have to make another picture or I have to write some more copy. Their whole life goal and their perception of something bigger helps me be able to see how they're going to see all the smaller things that they get to do day to day.
It's so interesting that you look at it that way. My default is to hire people who kind of are more like me, because I think like Hensley, you and I both know Hensley, and she's been on the podcast before. Hensley and I are like she says something and I understand like what she's saying and where she's coming from. And if she's in it with me, like her execution of it is going to be chaotic but effective and super fast paced. It's going to get done, and it's going to get done today. Like it's not going to sit, it's going to move, and it's going to move now. What is your goal? And if your goal is to do a certain project, maybe that structure works where it's like work style on top of work style on top of work style, but where you're trying to build something over a long haul and you're trying to build it so it's stable and so that other people can come into it too and thrive. Like I don't see SizzleSociety as being a me and you thing. Like I see it as being 30 people. I see it as being something that will grow to others. And so then I appreciate and now crave the balance of I know I'm over here and I'm over here, but then if I ever need to go over here, like I know you will meet me there. And I think if you have too many people that are of a certain type, then it can't hold more than certain type of work. I don't know. I've never talked to you about this before. So I don't know. How do you feel about that?
I would also say, like, I think it helps a lot that I'm a Gemini, and that's my little woo-woo said coming out, because we have both sides, right? And I can meet you on the crazy chaotic side, and I can meet you in the middle. I can be on my own side over here, right? But it's also how we both hire is different, and it works well because you always need that balance. So while you're over here looking for people that are gonna get stuff done same day when fire drills come out, they're going to follow the spreadsheets. I'm over here hiring because I want to know the person that I'm going to be working with, right? And for me, the big thing too that I like to hire for is how hungry are you? Are you a person that loves knowledge? Are you a person that loves to grow? Because if they are just so set in their way and like, this is my way and the only way, you're not moldable, right? And I think that's something where for us, and when I see the team, it's like we're all moldable in a way that we will never say we know the answer 100% and this is the only way. We're open to innovation. We're open to ideas. We're open to doing new things. And like, while we know our strategies and we know our tactics, there's so many more ways we can level that up. And that only comes from our team being able to learn and grow and mold and change over time.
Yeah, I think having like a nimble, whatever it takes kind of team and culture is one of the greatest things that we've ever done. What are some of the lessons that you feel like we have learned together?
It's really who you work with that matters, and who you bring into your team can make it or crumble it all. And I think that's something that I would say is the biggest one. When I look at maybe these people that we might have hired in the past, if they're a negative Nancy, it's not going to go well for the people in the team, right? And if you have just overall the wrong partners, it could be the demise of something. And it's sad to see that go the way it goes. But then that's where thankfully we had that experience, because we were able to rebuild so much stronger and so much more powerful, and something bigger and greater came out of it.
And I think that that is one of the most important lessons that we've learned, because I do feel like we went from trying to build a fitness concept. We took the same exact people and we just pivoted, and we were like, now we're going to build a marketing agency, which are two totally different structures and businesses, but that's what we did, and we did it seamlessly. And I do have a sense now within our ecosystem that where we decide to build something else, I do think we could build anything that we decided we wanted to build. If it's a green light from me and it's a green light from you, I think we have that understanding of like, okay, let's figure it out. And we would just figure it out.
100%. And something that I remember I told you a while ago is, if you had left the agency or you left whatever we were working on and you went to go manage a McDonald's or some random like restaurant, first of all, I'm letting you know I have no restaurant experience, but I would go work for you, right? It's the who, and it's the leader that's in place, and it's like the team that's in place. Like, it doesn't matter what you're going out and doing. It's the people you're surrounded with. And I'm very proud of the team that we have built. Like, I look back and it's like, Delaney, we have Delaney, who we've been working with for years now. And we're like, anytime we need anything for social, we call her up. We have like others on the roster there that we tag in so often because we know how they work. We know what they're capable of. We've already worked on so many things together. It's like a rinse and repeat. We're going to do it again, no matter what that core item is.
And I think to go back to like a hiring mindset, everyone says they work fast, or everyone says they are driven. Everyone says they're a hard worker. And it really is understanding, like, how does this person get to that end goal? And not everybody is the same. And I think you and I are similar in that regard of just like, of a roll up our sleeves, like whatever it takes, kind of like get it done kind of approach. And probably the reason that we will be successful is you and I both have a growth mindset. I think we have conversations like this maybe more often than maybe we should have more of them, but we have them more often than we show online. But I think like, you know what I'm trying to do and become. And it's an understanding of like, I see you right now and you're great right now, but then I also see where you want to go and I see your potential. I think maybe from the outside, people might see our dynamic and see like how pushy I am and be like, oh, like Jess must push her all the time. But it's definitely mutual. And if anything, there's moments you push me more than I push you. Do you feel it's opposite? Do you think I push you more than you push me?
See, it's funny because that's where like we have this just mutual like pushing of each other, where I do feel like you push me more than I push you. But I think it's on different aspects, right? Where whether for me, it's like more personal growth, whether it's more leadership growth, whether it's more in different ways. And you push me on a like entrepreneurship way. You push me on like, there's different ways we push each other, but it's the same pushing that we're still just meeting there, you know? And one thing that I've always kind of worried about is like, there's sometimes where people talk about, oh, you outgrow people in certain relationships, right? And it's like, we've worked together for years and our pushing has just leveled up together at the same rate. And
Yeah.
I don't see that pushing stopping anytime soon.
Yeah. And I think it's all rooted in, I see you right now. And you do such a good job of being empathetic and being where somebody is right now and being a sounding board. And that's definitely part of your superpower, that empathetic side. And so I think a lot of leaders will like go into their one-on-one discussions and go right to the push, like go right to like what's next. I think you always have an understanding of what's needed in the moment. Like, do I need to be here in the moment right now and just reassure like everything's good? Or do I need to be like, yes, we can do this, and 2 years from now, it's going to be this. So I appreciate you have a great way of giving that feedback and then also that coaching of, yes, we're totally good right here. And I see you and I appreciate you, but then there's this. I call it like a shit sandwich of like, what's the good news? And what's the good news? And then what's in the middle is like, here's where we need to be. You do it much more eloquently than a shit sandwich, but it's just an awareness of presence of the moment and just being where we are, and everything's great and chaotic where we are, but it's good and it's fine. And then there's the next thing.
For sure. I also think that there's the way that I show up to calls too is I've been on calls where everything is just negative, 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 negative. And that just impacts the team. And instead of coming to a call of like, this is all shit, I'm coming up to a call with, I see the opportunities, right? And I'm not going to say that it's shit until like red flag alarms, right? But I'm going to approach it in a way of like, what did I not give you? Or where did communication get lost? Where could I improve as a leader? What do you need from me? Now, how do we come together and make this a red flag into a yellow and a green flag? right? How do we execute this really, really fast? And what were our learnings so we don't take that into the next call? I also love to start my calls with like a little check-in with everybody of like non-work related things, because I want them to show up and tell me like, what were you so excited about this weekend? What are you excited about today? Like, what are you excited about for next week? And because that also gives me as a leader like a check-in of like, hey, I'm saying good morning to you, not because I need something, but because I want to know, how did your concert go? How did your date go? And that just creates that culture of like, all right, if shit does hit the fan one day, we've already built this whole pile of like happy go lucky, like this bank of pure happiness, that one off day is not going to truly affect our day to day.
You're absolutely so good at that. And I am the worst at that. And so I think that's another dynamic of just like you being team mom and like sitting in your superpower of just connecting with people on that level. As we wrap up, do you have any advice that you'd want to share with young marketers or young entrepreneurs?
I would say go after every passion that you have. It doesn't matter what the passion is, explore every single one of it. Because if I was told just focus on this one thing, I know from the way my mind works, I would have gotten bored a long, long time ago. And I probably would not have stuck to the thing that I love. So jump around, explore everything that you love, everything, even if it's just an idea, explore the idea until it just either doesn't come to fruition, right? If your idea just dies, maybe let it die. But you can just go in there and say like, hey, I tried it out. If you go and explore your passion, you're like, hey, maybe this one isn't for me. You'll know then, right? Versus going in the future, be like, oh, I should have explored that. No, like, again, you only have that one life to live. Explore everything.
Is there anything that is top of mind with you that we did not get a chance to talk about?
My one message that I would love just people to know is they are truly boundless in every way, shape, or form. You are boundless in your creativeness. You're never limited. And I feel like sometimes we approach work or task, and I'm guilty of this, of like, oh, I'm just not feeling my creativity today, or I'm not feeling like doing this today, and like my tank is low. But when you truly realize how boundless your mind is, how boundless your soul is, and how to refuel that soul and how to refuel yourself, when you reach that boundlessness, you're going to level up. So I hope people can learn how to tap into that boundless energy and their boundless self.
I love that mic drop moment. Thank you so much for being with us today on the Society Pod.
It was great to be here.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Society Pod.